Just didn't care. If you're a man in a consensual sex scandal, who cares? And what it means is that on Twitter, we have total control over people's destiny. We on Twitter have decided, Max Mosley, that's bad, we don't care. Justine Sacco, she's dead. What I find so interesting is that we haven't woken up to that realisation about ourselves. We still like to see ourselves as the hitherto silenced underdog fighting the good fight. We have insane amounts of power right now. Because what's the worst sin now? The worst sin now is misuse of privilege. Now, of course, a misuse of privilege is a worse sin than a consensual sex scandal. But we're tearing people apart for our perceived idea. And a misuse of privilege is getting wider and wider and wider as a concept.
That's right. You have to express yourself less and less, so you aren't like Justine Sacco, deliberately misconstrued. Now I want to go to the penultimate part of the book, which is a profound exploration of the nature of shame. And a lot of this insight comes by way of a psychiatrist named James Gilligan. He was a Harvard-educated psychiatrist. He started examining homicidal prison population, and ultimately he found that universal among the violent criminals was the fact that they were keeping a secret, and that secret was that they felt deeply ashamed, chronically ashamed, acutely ashamed. As children, these men were shot, axed, scalded, beaten, strangled, tortured, drugged, starved. And I'll end his quote there and just say that it would inevitably give rise to the kind of extreme behavior they took part in as adults.
Right, and he said this line that's followed me around. I think it's one of the most profound things anybody's ever said to me. He said, all violence is an attempt to replace shame with self-esteem. And I feel in that moment, other than the tiny minority of people who have a neurological absence of empathy, that feels right to me. And yet, here we are. I think what a lot of people forget was when Twitter began, it was the opposite of how it was now. It was actually like a kind of radical de-shaming exercise. People would blab out their hitherto shameful secrets. Because, you know, as James Gilligan's research shows, shame internalized leads to horror. Shame let out leads to freedom, or if nothing else, a funny story. And that's what people were doing on Twitter. So it was a wonderful thing. And then what did we do with it? We started to use it against ourselves and created this cold, bristle, conservative thing when if somebody admits their shameful secret, we destroy them for it.
As you wind down, you talk about what's the solution, at least to online shaming that can destroy lives. And you talk about a lovely person who worked with the disabled.
Loveliest and just the most ordinary person in the world. Her name's Lindsay Stone. She used to have this running joke with her friend Jamie where they would make fun of signs. So, you know, smoking in front of a no smoking sign and so on. So they went to Arlington, the tomb of the unknown soldier, and as she said to me, inspiration struck. There's a picture of her in front of the silence and respect sign, and she's flipping the finger and pretending to shout.
Mm-hmm.
You know, again, much like Justine, not the best joke in the world, you know, nobody's saying that it is, but she posted it on Facebook, and then a month passed, nothing happened, and then suddenly it went viral, and she was fired and became agoraphobic, deeply traumatized, felt utterly worthless. There's nothing worse, I can really tell you this, that something that people don't realize is that being publicly shamed.
You suggest it's a kind of death. Gilligan said that
Yeah.
The word mortification means to deaden.
You know, to be told that you are worthless and you're out of society.
So how do you fix this?
Well, there's a team of people in San Francisco, a company called Reputation.com.
I want to say, full disclosure, they have been a sponsor of this program at some point.
Unfortunately, it costs a hell of a lot of money. It will cost hundreds of thousands of dollars to correct the kind of mistake that, you know, Lindsay Stone made.
And you decided to cover what they did for your book. They wanted a subject. You landed on Lindsay Stone.
Yeah, and it's the only way that she would agree to talk to me too, because she was just too traumatized to tell the story, but I offered her quite the incentive. And it really worked wonders. But the really sad thing about it is I'd listen in on these conference calls between Lindsay and Reputation.com. Basically what they do is try and replace the silly, impudent, foolhardy mistake that she made with pleasant banalities. What's your favourite type of ice cream? What do you think about Lady Gaga's new jazz album?
An unobjectionably bland human being, a Donna Reed for the internet.
Yeah, because we have created a world where the smartest way to survive is to be bland.
And it worked.
It worked.
Her objectionable picture fell down in the rankings until, of course, the end of February, when your Guardian feature came out about your book. The photograph was there again.
I asked her, what do you think about that? She said that talking to me was very cathartic, and she also felt that it's really important to be part of the discussion, which she is. And I think that Lindsay's story and Justine's story in my book might actually change people's behaviour. Not think twice before you tell an impudent joke, but think twice before you destroy somebody for telling an impudent joke.
You conclude by saying, I personally no longer take part in the ecstatic public condemnation of people unless they've committed a transgression that has an actual victim. And you've noted that there usually isn't a victim.
Yeah. And I don't think that's the perfect ending. The other day I did an interview, and the interviewer said something along the lines of, yeah, you're right, people should be allowed to make risque jokes. For instance, there was somebody the other day making fun of a transgender person, called them like a Fruit Loop, and, you know, what's wrong with that? And actually, there is something wrong with that.
Yeah, it isn't about feel free to be as objectionable and offensive as you want.
That's the opposite of what I'm saying, because, of course, when you insult a transgender person, you're shaming. That's what you're doing. But I think twice before gleefully condemning somebody for doing almost nothing wrong.
You said that you miss the fun a little, but it feels like when you became a vegetarian, you missed the steak, although not as much as you anticipated, but you could no longer ignore the slaughterhouse.
Because I've met so many of these people now who've been destroyed in this way, and it's agonizing to meet them. We have no idea how severe our punishments are.
John, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Jon Ronson is a journalist and author of the book, So You've Been Publicly Shamed. That's it for this week's show.